Ukraine.
Sweet home Ukraine.
First of all, I think I was a little bit apprehensive about going. Once I got over there, I saw that I was really glad that people had given. I think the whole time we were there, the whole 2.5 weeks, that they only took a shower once. And a lot of the kids had lice, and a lot of them had their heads shaved because of the lice. And almost all the kids had, their shoes were in a sad state or non-existent. A lot of them were barefoot, and they would do their chores barefoot, and their feet had sores. Most of the kids' feet looked pretty bad and had sores. And that was one of the cool things that we did when we were there. Michelle and I, it was actually Michelle's idea, washed some of the kids' feet. We got a basin of soapy water and just like clipped toenails and washed the kids' feet, and they liked that, and it was fun to do because their feet were really dirty, but also just because, I don't know, it was nice to do that for them. There were a couple kids, there was one girl in particular that I connected with. Her name was Ola. Whenever we saw each other, we connected, and we would hold hands and sit next to one another and hug and stuff and cuddle. And I was glad that I got to have that connection with her because I don't know, she looked like she needed to be comforted. And I noticed on her hand and arm she had places where she had cut herself. And that made me really sad. And I just think the hardest part to me is to know that those kids are going through a lot of mental anguish and emotional anguish because things are so hard, and that there's nobody there to like comfort them or to relieve that for them. I hoped that I was able to impart some comfort to her. I mean, from the Bible, God talks about himself as being someone whose heart is with widows and orphans, and whose eye is on them, and who calls his people to care for widows and orphans. And I felt like when we were there that there was an extra measure of grace for us, not because of who we are or necessarily even because we were putting on a Christian camp for the kids, but because we were coming alongside orphans and tapping into the abundant measure of grace and goodness that God has towards them. And I felt like when we were there that we got to experience that. And it makes me want to do more of that and want more people, not necessarily to go on a Little Lambs camp, although that's good, but just to be mindful of those in need, especially widows and orphans. I just felt lifted up by God to be able to do the small things that I had to do. Even though there were all those factors that were potentially against us or could have overwhelmed us, I didn't feel overwhelmed. And I think that that's because of what the Lord did. So I think I was like totally thankful that God answered my question about whether it was worth it, the money that we spent to go. Because I think it was worth, every penny. And I really was humbled and overwhelmed by how I just felt like the people who gave for us to go on the trip, if they could have seen how much what they gave, how it was multiplied to the people who received because they gave. I just really was kind of stunned by that thought when I was there, that how grateful I was to the people who gave, and how it was worth so much more even than what they did give. And I think it was better than any investment you could ever make with your money.
10. 3, 4.
It is important, it is imperative for us to be reminded of it in that very raw, can't escape it experience. People are often daunted by the numbers. The numbers are good to see, you know, this many people are hurting, who can help them all? And that the flip side, you need to see one, two, three, whatever individuals that you can latch onto. That's your own personal thing. You can help that person because you can't help everyone. And I was only there for a week and a half, and I don't know what I could have done for those kids other than just be there and play with them and pray for them. But I know that God is good and that He loves those children and that He can take care of them when we can't.
Katya has a foot that's kind of curly. So one foot is, I think, longer than the other, or one leg is longer than the other. And the thing about Katya is she kind of reminds me of me when I was little. She is very kind of vulnerable, and one story about her that took place near the end is that I was looking at her and I was like, gosh, what's going to happen to her when she gets old or older? Like, is she going to get taken advantage of because she can't run very fast? Is she going to have health problems because she's not able to exercise? Are people going to pick on her because her one foot is weak, so she hobbles a little bit when she walks and she can't run? I thought, maybe I've been praying for the wrong thing for these kids all along, because to be safe is very boring. And it's probably not the way God intended us to live in very safe worlds where nothing happens and no one gets hurt. Because I think to live a little dangerously is probably to grow more.
We're sitting there in one of our large group meetings, the large gatherings, and there's a particular boy named Sasha who's quiet. We're sitting there, and then he would come sit next to me, and he'd put his head on my shoulder. And that's not what an 18-year-old man's supposed to do, right? Just his deep longing to be loved or to love because he never got it growing up. How sad it is to be abandoned and to have no love growing up, just to be in that place of just trying to just grasp for love elsewhere because you're not getting it at home. I don't know how it's not supposed to be this way, the depravity, the fall of man. And that's very much my Ukraine experience. That what exemplifies or typifies